Hey guys, welcome to the youfa channel. The other day I saw two articles and a video about how Gen Z struggles to support themselves financially and how they have it so much harder than previous generations. Oh my gosh. The entire existence of your generation revolves around the concept of life not being difficult. They shouldn't call you Gen Z. They should call you Gen Easy. Life's not all sunshine and rainbows like people want you to think it is. The world can be a cruel place, often because people make it that way. Human beings can be a lot of things. And I'm supposed to keep my mouth shut? Guess again. I'm Johnny V. Welcome to the youfa channel. So let's get this out of the way right away. A couple quick things. The things I'm about to say are not directed to each and every single individual of Generation Z. Okay? Some of you do not deserve to be criticized for laziness. Some of you work hard. I know some people in particular, Anthony, Jojo, you guys, and a handful of people like you, you don't deserve to be criticized. But the girl in this video, the things she said, I'm not even directing what I'm saying at her. It's just what she represents and the attitude she displayed. So I know people don't watch my videos all the way through, so I got to get this out of the way, right here, right now. Overall, Gen Z, you are lazy. So something popped up on my newsfeed the other day. It was an article in a news source called Distractify. It was written by Alison DeGrouche. The headline was, "I am struggling. Woman highlights financial struggles of Gen Z in supporting themselves." And there was a video associated with it. Later in the day, another news feed pops up. Another thing pops up. And it says another article in something called The Telegraph. It was by Melanie Ross. And the headline there was, "Lay off Generation Z. We work harder than baby boomers ever had to." The attitude encapsulated in these two headlines, not to mention the video associated with the first one, is despicable. So the girl in the video goes off on this rant, and she starts out in the beginning with this real cocky, arrogant tone. She says, "Let me put it in perspective for you, for those of you who are confused." We're not confused. You're confused if you think you have it harder starting out at $15 an hour than previous generations who started out at 15 cents an hour. You think you have it harder than people who lived through the Depression and World War I and Vietnam and Korea and the Cold War? Really? Yeah, I know the first thing you're going to think of is, yeah, well, things cost more now than they did then. I know they do. I'm well aware of inflation. But don't you worry. Your boy Biden's going to fix everything. That's not the point. This is not a political video. This is about you guys complaining about things you have no right to complain about. This girl in her video, she says, "I'm sick of the media dogging my generation for being lazy." Dogging you? Dogging you? Nobody dogs you. Nobody holds you accountable or criticizes you ever. Since the day you were born, you were coddled. You played sports where nobody kept score. You got a trophy for showing up. You went to school where they probably didn't even give you number grades or A, B, C, D or a big red F. No, not at all. You never changed your own oil, cut your own grass, wiped your own ass. Your phone does that for you. Then you turn 18, you go off to college or you go off to work, but now you're 18. You can vote, right? But God forbid your candidate doesn't win. Oh, now you got to take off a week from college or take off a week from work because you're stressed. You're really stressed out and you have to go to therapy and lay on a couch in a pink room with milk and cookies and a giant puffy penis-shaped pillow to cry on. You're pathetic. So she says she's working her tail off 40 hours a week, and that 40 hours a week at the current modern day wages simply isn't enough to live on, as opposed to previous generations who could have lived on 40 hours a week. And she says that her generation's being blamed for being lazy while the responsibility lies with the previous generations who allowed the economy to deteriorate. Oh my gosh. Typical. Blame everybody else for the fact that you're not willing to work harder or worked longer than 40 hours a week. Blaming everybody else because you're not willing to make the sacrifices that previous generations did make, where they lived at home with their parents and grandparents, 3 generations together, trying to raise a family, working harder and harder and harder to get by at lower wages than you make now. Making sacrifices, going without shoes and without clothes. And here you are making videos on a cell phone that probably cost hundreds of dollars. Anywhere from $100 to $1,500 for an apparatus that you do not need. Shut the fuck up. You do not need a cell phone, and you sure as hell don't need a $300, $400, $500, $800 cell phone. And the article says she dropped truth bombs on TikTok. Give me a break. I'll tell you all about truth bombs. You know, a friend of mine stopped by one day to hang out, and he had to use the bathroom. He comes upstairs and he comes down and he goes, "John, don't you think you're kind of hard on yourself?" Because he saw something I had hanging on my wall. It wasn't pretty. It's not a plaque. It's just a piece of paper, and it's right there before you go down the stairs. That's a truth bomb, you little twit. We live in unprecedented times, okay? You grew up in a world where you can make a boatload of money by playing on your phone, or you can be an influencer. Can you imagine? Can you imagine asking your grandfather if he was ever an influencer? Oh my gosh. Let me see if I can make a whole bunch of money by using my phone. Okay, I'm going to use my phone. You like this phone? You're all laughing your asses off? Okay, let's you know what? Let me call somebody from another generation. How about that? Let's see. Hello? Yeah, you're all laughing your asses off. I still have a phone that uses rotary dial because I've made sacrifices that you're not willing to make. You grew up in a world where you can make a living, make thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars by farting around on the internet. The number of millionaires in America is higher now than it's ever been. And the average age when someone becomes a millionaire is 38. And they do it by sitting on their asses. You know what? I don't mean to criticize people who have white-collar livings and make a living at a desk, because a lot of benefits in society have come from that, and I'm sure you work hard. But let's face it, man, if you sit on your ass, you do not deserve a 6-figure income as opposed to a guy breaking his balls in 98-degree heat pouring concrete. And you grew up in a world where you can make a boatload of money by farting around on the internet. Did I just spit on the screen? I think I did. And then you complain about it. Ironically, this girl who made this video, she has 79,000 followers on TikTok. I don't know what other platform she's on, but this video got 5 million views. Here she is complaining that she can't make enough money, and she's probably going to make thousands on an 85-second video. She's going to make money, lots and lots of money, for working a minute and a half. Not to mention, she's freaking good looking. Oh, you're a dirty old man. Shut the fuck up. The girl's gorgeous, so she could be a model. And there are 2 examples of how she can make boatloads of money doing virtually nothing. Look, I get it. I saw a lot of comments on this girl's video, and they all included the word want. I want this, I don't want that. I might have mentioned this earlier. I'm getting overwhelmed. But you don't always get what you want in life. But I do understand. I do understand that you guys don't want to work the traditional 9-to-5, as you call it. I call it the common man's grind. I refuse to wake up between 6 and 8 a.m. I'll wake up at 5:55 and work my ass off. I'll wake up at 8:01 and work till 8 at night. But you're not willing to do that. And there was a time, I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to throw myself under the bus. I know what it's like to be young. I know what it's like to not want to waste your life working. But this girl's got all these videos out there of herself goofing around. You work 40 hours a week. There are 168 hours in a week. So maybe you have a job that requires that you take a whole lunch hour every day. So now you're tied up 45 hours a week. That leaves you 123 hours to do something else productive to make a living. Now you can tell me, well, I have to commute, I have to eat and bathe, and yeah, okay, but you don't do it 123 hours a week. You're wasting time. Make it more productive. Now, when I was 15 years old, I was late for work, and my father was up my butt. And I was so frustrated, and I blurted this out. I'm ashamed of myself till this day. I said to him, I shouldn't even have to work. Do you know how bad I want to go back in time and put my own foot up my own ass? He just looked at me like, what? I'm so ashamed of that. So I totally understand wanting more out of life, wanting to utilize your time, wanting to utilize your youth, want to be more effective with everything, but then do something. Do something substantial. Don't just whine about everything and blame everybody else. Because you know what? In spite of how ashamed I am of that one comment, you know what I never did was claim that previous generations had it easier than I did. That is bullshit. So let's talk about my father for a minute. So my father, when he lived through the Depression, the Great Depression. I don't know if you youngsters have ever even heard of that, but people were starving. There were lines for bread. Food was rationed. People lost everything. They had nowhere to live. Some people had nowhere to live, and the country kind of came together and they helped each other out. So my father lived through the Depression. Then he got a job working with a milkman. I don't know what he made, but the milkman would deliver the milk to people's houses. And there was a horse and carriage, and it would just trot down the street, and he would have to keep up with the horse. And he would run back and forth from the house to the cart, and to the house to the cart, while the horse kept on running. Then he wasn't even able to graduate high school because he got drafted into the Army. They even had to move up the prom so that the guys could go to their prom before going off to war. So my father goes off to war, and not all his friends, but his friends were shot, killed, drowned. There was an incident on Christmas Eve, 1944. He was on a transport ship to the Battle of the Bulge, and it got torpedoed by a German U-boat, and the ship sunk. My father floated around in the English Channel till he got picked up, and he was lucky. He never complained. He was lucky because 780, I believe it was 780 men died that Christmas Eve. So he gets through the war, he comes home, he gets married, he has a child, and his wife dies. All before he turned 22. And you Gen Zers have the balls to say you have it harder than that? So let's continue a little bit. So then he gets a job doing construction, pouring concrete, doing manual labor, but he wanted more respect in life, so he wanted a job where he wears suit and tie. So he became an insurance salesman. Not the kind of insurance salesman you know now that just makes a phone call or sends you an email. No, they had something they called a debit, where they went to the customers' houses and collected money. Only he worked in the ghetto. And the little bastards knew he would have money, and he got robbed and jumped at gunpoint more than once. And he never complained. But you sit in the air conditioning in the summer and the heat in the winter, and you never got jumped, and you never went to war, and you never poured concrete, and you're complaining because you make more money now than he did then. You're complaining you have it harder than previous generations? Fuck you! My grandparents came to this country. They left everything they knew and came here and had to try to find work without even knowing how to speak the language. My grandmother's mother had to bury a child at sea. Did you have it harder than that? Growing up with your Netflix and your internet and your cell phone. This girl says in her video, you don't know what it's like for us. And when you were starting out, you were able to do all the things I'm struggling to do. And then at some point she referenced 20 years ago. Okay, so let's talk about me starting out. Let's talk about me 20 years ago, and then we'll go back to me starting out. So 20 years ago, I had just lost my job making $90,000 a year. And you're thinking, see what I mean? You made $90,000 a year. Shut the fuck up and listen. I had just lost the job making 90 grand a year. After working 15 years to get to 90 grand. Now let's go back. I was hired at a company you now know as Verizon. Back then it was Bell Atlantic or Bell of Pennsylvania. I'm not sure which one. My memory's failing me. But I had been working at Seafood Shanty as a cook. I took a pay cut to go to this multi-billion-dollar company, Fortune 500 company, turning record profits year after year. I took a pay cut as a cook to come to this company and start at $6.30 an hour. And I climbed telephone poles, and you never know if we were going to be inside or outside because we worked on telephone landlines. We'd work from the pole and into the house. So you might be in a house all day long. You might be outside. You might be in and out all day. You might be on a telephone pole 20 feet in the air where the wind is whipping in the winter and your ears are red and you can't even, you wear gloves because you got to work on wires. The backs of my hands till this day get red in the summer when I sweat and they burn. I believe it's from previous frostbite. I don't know. You could be outside. You could be inside in a ghetto house. I worked in the ghetto a lot in the beginning. You'd open a telephone jack and the roaches would come crawling out all over the place. You'd go in the basement. Fleas would be jumping on. You'd be trying to dodge dog shit in the basement. You wipe your feet leaving the house. That's how bad it was. You work in these ghetto alleys in Southwest Philly. We would walk down the alley and dogs would be jumping over the fence, their bodies bowing, and they'd bite you in the shoulder. Then you climb up a pile of frozen dog shit to work in the terminal. Or sometimes the alley was blocked and you have to walk on the cinder block walls that bordered the back of the people's properties. But before you climbed up on that wall, you had to put your hand up there very gently because people had cemented shards of glass into the top of those walls as some kind of a security measure. So you'd walk down the wall holding onto the telephone cable and the walls would wobble. In fact, one guy collapsed and he fell and he got hurt. We were threatened because people thought we were cops tapping the phone lines. I got my truck robbed more than once. And I worked 15 cold winters, 15 hot summers. Actually, it was 14 because I lost a job at right around the 15-year mark. And I started at $6.30 an hour and I got raise after raise after raise, working my ass off in these ghettos. And then I moved to the main line and the job was a little more manual, a little more physical labor, but still, I worked. The point is I worked. And we would go on strike every couple of years to get those raise increases, those raises. So yeah, around the year 2000, I made 90 grand. Because at that now higher rate, after spending 15 years, I got a higher rate and I worked 400 hours overtime that year. Over 400 hours, I believe. So I didn't work a little 40-hour work and complain that I couldn't make ends meet. Now let's talk about how I bought my house, okay? I bought my house because my car got stolen and I took the insurance check from the stolen car and I put a down payment on my house. And I don't live high on the hog. Right about the time I lost my job, I had been dabbling in the entertainment business. I had just finished my first feature film, and I was $250,000 in credit card debt from this movie. And the year the movie came out, I lost the job. So then I had to go bankrupt. And I struggled, man. I ate tuna fish and a piece of fruit every night for dinner. I didn't have internet. I didn't have Netflix. I didn't have cable TV. I didn't have air conditioning in the summer. I didn't have a cell phone. People have been laughing at me my whole life for that stuff. You have all those things, Gen Z. In fact, there was one winter that I didn't know for sure what this was. And in hindsight, I think I know. I was getting cramps in my calves. And I believe it was from shivering at night because I kept my heat so low to save a few bucks. So don't talk about how hard you have it. My story continues. So then I finally got on my feet. I started a business. I made a couple bucks. Let me stop. Let me go back. I rented my house out to someone else. And they called me up. They said the sewer line's clogged. So I come home here to my house and I go in the basement to unclog the sewer line. It's on a Sunday morning. And I unclog the sewer. And here I am, broke, depressed. I don't know where my life's going. And I'm in my basement. And total strangers are in my living room, enjoying my house, watching TV, while I'm watching the human feces, the real shit of these strangers float past me in my basement. I finally got on my feet. I moved back in the house. I refinanced. I got a couple bucks. I bought a house in Chester. It's a total ghetto. If you're offended by that, fuck it. Clean up your neighborhood and shut up. Anyway, I bought a house in Chester. The tenants, that was a nightmare every month. The fucking bullshit. Then they lit the house on fire. It burned down and I lost it. And now you bitch about your life. I can't reiterate it enough. How easy you have it. Now a couple more stories. I was just watching. I'll tell the other story first. I knew a kid who he got hired at a job right out of high school. He wanted to do something in particular, and this company hired him right out of high school. He had no experience in this subject, and he had no formal education in regard to this subject. And they were going to train him and start him at $40,000 a year. $40,000 a year. He turned them down. You know why? It wasn't enough money. Whoa. About 2 hours ago, I'm watching an episode on Alex Hermosi. He does a video show on YouTube. And he told a story about a kid, 18 years old, who demanded $100,000. $100,000, 18 years old. You're still wet behind the ears. It's just unbelievable. I've heard numerous people. I've run a business. Kids don't want to work. You are lazy. And a friend of mine complains constantly about the people she works with. These kids come in. They come in late constantly. One girl's been late every day for 3 years. They finally said, in her job performance evaluation, they said, look, man, you've been late a lot. Then time goes by, she's late more and more and more. And they said, look, this is your last time. This is your last warning. You're late. And you know what her argument was? Well, you never got me. You never gave me a hard time about it before. It's unbelievable. Your attitude, Gen Z, it's unbelievable. You go to these job interviews dressed like a slob. You don't make any eye contact. You're playing on your phone. And then maybe you get the job, and then you go hide throughout the day, and you play around on your phone. And you have this sense of entitlement to make more money than I make at my age, or more money than somebody who's been breaking their balls for 30 years? You're unfucking believable. You are not entitled. Work your ass off. So Gen Z, after getting out of high school and going to college for 4 years and spending 4 years getting laid, getting drunk, getting high, and coming out dumber than when you started, or going to work and trying to hide and find ways to not work. Instead of doing all that, why don't you just put your mind and your effort toward succeeding? You have millions of things at your disposal. Okay? Lots of information out there. Watch videos. Watch Dan Locke. Watch Cody Sanchez. Watch Dave Ramsey. Watch Alex Hermosi. He's probably my favorite. You can make a living. You can do it. Stop being lazy. You're lazy. You're stupid. You're soft. You're weak. You're out of shape. You're disrespectful. And you whine too damn much. And you make me fucking sick. Do something to succeed. And you will. Johnny V here, soon to be the most hated man in America. For telling like it is, go fuck yourself and have a great day.